Welcome everybody to Funeral Nation. I'm Ryan Thogmartin. That is Pierce Dempsey, and we are going to be talking about a topic I feel and you feel are very important across death care, and that is hospice partnership and interaction. But first, I gotta shout out our sponsor and the fuel that kind of makes the Funeral Nation engine go, and that is C&J Financial. Jamie and the crew and Jeff over there have been supporters of ours for a long time. So, Pierce, introduce yourself if there's anybody out there
Yeah,
that doesn't know who you are.
yeah, for sure. Pierce Dempsey. I live in Georgia, and we operate three cemeteries and two cremation centers. One in Georgia, one in Columbus, Ohio. So I kind of oversee the operations of the two cremation facilities. Um, I do a lot of our marketing and outreach, and we run a hospice program in both states. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today. That's a passion of ours. I think it's a passion of most people in our profession. But we've kind of dove into what can we do for hospice, and it's grown our business, and we like to share that.
Yeah, so I mean, we've worked with you for a few years now
Hmm.
through Disrupt and watched those partnerships through hospice really help grow, and a lot of content and things that we create socially around that as well.
Yeah.
So I know that let's set the stage. So, like, you've built out a program that you guys are implementing that has had tremendous positive impact on the businesses, but also you are going to be teaching on this, right? This summer at ICCFA University. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll be at the university being an instructor in the cremation college. So I'll be doing an hour and a half lecture, basically trying to give the students there a playbook for hospice. Hospice playbook is what I'm going to call it. And so yeah, I mean, I'm going to give them, whether you're a funeral home that serves 50 families a year or 500 or 5,000, you can start from anywhere. And I'm going to kind of give them a playbook to where do you find hospices? Once you've found them, what do you do? Who's going to do this? Do you have to hire a full-time person? Can I do this as the owner? Can I do this as a funeral director? Lay the foundation for how to get started, and then hopefully give them a program that they can run for 20 or 100 years.
It's awesome. I love it. Look, you and I talked about this offline, and I'm like, we have to do a Funeral Nation episode on this because it's so powerful. Like, community partnerships in general as a funeral home are beneficial, and it's one of the things that we push heavily with our social clients is, when we're running campaigns, let's figure out ways that we can partner with local organizations because those partnerships just amplify the reach
Mm.
and magnify the reach that you can have. So let's start at the foundation, just at the basis. Why should a funeral home consider hospice a partner and reach out and build relationships with hospice organizations?
Yeah, I mean, the to start, it's just about the numbers. You look at, how can I get in front of a family? How can I get my brand in front of the family? How can I get my funeral home in front of a family? 40 to 50% of people nowadays pass away on hospice care. And then when you look at the statistics that a lot of people in our industry have done on, how many of those people on hospice already have funeral arrangements, it's less than half. So you have
Mm,
this half of the population and half of them, so 25% of the entire population of the United States is with a hospice and does not know who they're going to use for their funeral or cremation provider. So it's kind of a no-brainer if I can tell these hospice nurses and social workers and administrators who are not only just caring for the family, they're in the family's home. Sometimes every day they're meeting with the family. If I can get in front of them and get them to love my brand and them
mhm.
to buy into what my business does and how we care for the community, if I can get them to buy into that, I just know they're going to tell families about us. Um, and so that's the goal is uh, you know tell why you're great and why families should choose you to these hospice nurses and social workers, and then get them to spread the word to all these families they're coming into contact with.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second because
Yeah.
I mean we work with hundreds of funeral homes and
Hmm.
we talk about this type of partnership with funeral homes, and when I get pushback, it is for two reasons. One, well, legally hospice aren't allowed to refer a funeral home anyway, so I don't need to worry about it. The other one is when hospice are illegally referring my competitor because they're less
Yeah.
expensive than me, and so what's the purpose in even trying to build a relationship? I can't match price, and they don't care. Well, what do you say to that?
Yeah. They can't refer, so they cannot say, you need to go to this funeral home. They can't do that. They have to give out a list sometimes. A lot of them have built out lists. However, they are allowed to say, I know a family that's used,
Mm,
Smith Funeral Home before. They can say that. They can tell the family, why don't you search for, a cremation provider right now on your phone, and let's see what comes up and let's talk about it. If Especially if a family says, "What do you know about Smith Family Funeral Home?" The hospice nurse can respond with a true,
hmm
real answer. If the family says, "Do you know any cremation providers?" They are allowed to answer. They can't tell them to choose a certain place, but they
hmm
can tell them knowledge that they know about cremation arrangements and what funeral homes are available in their local community. And then about they're always referring down in price. Um, this is like anecdotal. This is what we think happens.
hmm
There's no
Yep.
real statistics to say this actually happens. And then I guess I would push back a little bit and say, how do you know that that other funeral home doesn't just have a hospice program?
That's right. That's right.
And well, that's fine. But if you can't show your value to the hospices, that's not a problem with the hospice. That's a problem with your marketing. That
That's
means that
good.
your voice and what you're projecting out to the community isn't resonating. So you have to figure out, well, if it's not resonating with the hospice nurse, is it resonating with the family? That's on Google
Mm-hmm.
or that's driving by my funeral home every day. So I think the goal there is to maybe push back on yourself and say, all right, how could I be more attractive to these hospice nurses and hospice social workers? So if they are referring away from you, if you're convinced of that, how can we stop that? Because it's not based on price. We know that. All the research says it's
Yeah.
not always based on price. And when
Yeah.
price is a key factor, it's not even always the first key factor. So I would say, yeah, let's look at how can we change our messaging? How can we build value on what we do? How can we separate ourselves from these other funeral homes? Um, yeah, we're not the lowest price in our market. So when we
hmm
go into hospices, we're not saying, hey, we're the lowest cost cremation provider, choose us. We're saying this is our price and this is what families are going to get for it. That's so
I
that's
love
I think
that.
the approach that I would take.
I love saying like let's turn it back on us. You and I have both been able to spend time at hospice conferences. I spoke at a hospice conference with a bunch of C-level execs from 80 different hospice last year, doing the same this year. It was really interesting being in a room and having conversation with hospice on this topic and going, you know, what do you wish you were getting from the funeral homes in your area? And
Mm,
every single one said, I wish that funeral homes stopped looking at us as someone that's referring families to low cost direct cremation away from traditional funeral.
mm,
What funeral homes are missing is the fact that we are living and breathing with this family for a period of time in their home every single day, beside their bed. They become an extension, like we become an extension of their family. And being a part of that end of life process when it comes to a funeral care provider is important to us. We don't have the resources we need to have a conversation with a family when they do ask. And so, it's interesting to me to hear that side of it because it maps exactly to what you're saying that the hospice worker doesn't or social worker doesn't know what they don't know. And
mhm.
if your funeral home hasn't taken the time to educate them so that they can at least answer a question or two about your firm, that's a problem. Like that is one of the things we say a lot, you hear it all the time through Disrupt is
Mhm.
best known is better than best. When you are best
Yep.
known, people will talk about you. Then it's the opportunity to show that you are the best, but you got to be best
Hmm.
known first. So if you're in there creating those conversations, there's at least something for that hospice worker to talk about. If not, yeah, you are just rolling the dice, leaving it up to chance. And
Yeah.
you're exactly right. How do you know your competitor that's getting the calls from the hospice is not the one that's in there with a hospice program?
Hmm.
So I don't want you to give away the playbook because I would love for more people to attend
Yeah.
ICCFA University, but give us a snippet. Like, if I don't have a hospice program
Hmm.
currently, or I've been soured by a relationship with
Yep.
hospice, or I'm thinking about, okay, maybe I need to be engaging hospice. What's a good first or second step to take to start building those relationships?
Yeah, I'd say first few steps. First, hop on Google and just see who's near you because the same hospices that were there 3 years ago have either been bought out, they've moved offices,
Mm,
all kinds of stuff. So it's always the hospice industry is always changing. So you need to stay on top of it. So just do a quick Google, find the top five hospices around your community, and know that even if a hospice is 3 towns over, they probably still service families in your city. So don't narrow yourself down just to like a 5 mile radius. Go out maybe even 1 or 2 counties over because they may be getting families in your town that they're serving, that they're in the home in maybe a few blocks over from your funeral home. So find out what hospices are there, and then the main thing is this is a relationship game. We're not trying
mm.
to go in and just bring them donuts, just give them our business cards and walk out and be done. Our goal is when we walk in the hospice, they say, "Oh, hey, great to see you again." So, first, identify who the hospices are. Second, go out and see them in their office and don't just go by and drop something off. Talk to the receptionist, see if you can sit down with an administrator and just get the chat and say, "We want to know how we can help you." What do y'all not know about our business? What do y'all not know about our funeral home that you'd like to know? Maybe come with some ammunition. Say, hey, figure out if you just received a call from that hospice, a family that was under the care of that hospice, and say, hey, by the way, we served the Smith family last week, and they had great things to say about your hospice. So go and try to build a relationship. Don't just go to drop off a cookie cake or something. Um,
Sure.
and then lastly, it's got to be ongoing. So you can't just go once a year. You can't just go once every 3 years. You need to be going consistently. That's how relationships are built. Same thing with what you do, Ryan. It's like we,
Yeah.
we can't just drop one post a month and be done. We've got to have people seeing our brand over and over. That's how you build a relationship. That's how you build trust. When they see the same face over and over, they're going to start realizing, oh, these people, not only do they care about us, but this person, this brand is around for the long haul. They're going to serve our community 100 years from now. That's what the hospices want to see. So that's it. Find out who they are, go visit them, and then keep doing it over and over and over. That's how you're going to build trust. That's how you're going to get them to see the value in your brand.
I love it. I love it, man. It's so good. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Love that consistency. I mean, it's just principles of life in general, right? This isn't
Yes.
there
Yes.
isn't it's not
Right.
necessarily rocket science, but you're
Right.
doing it over and over, and you guys have built a playbook. So please go find the playbook. Go get the playbook. ICCFA University this summer. You said something that I want to address because I think it's an important topic. One of the things that I did notice being around hospice and some of the work we're doing with hospice have a lot of the same problems funeral homes do. It's reaching
Mm-hmm.
the consumer, educating the consumer about what they do. But I've also seen a probably higher level of consolidation with hospice than
Mm.
even what's happening in death care. How does that, whether it's a corporate owned funeral home or corporate owned hospice facility with multiple locations or it's a
Yep.
smaller location, does your approach have to change based on the type of hospice it is?
Yes and no. Yeah, it's always changing, so you got to stay on top of it. But as far as the approach, I don't think so because these nurses and social workers, that's really who you're after. The higher
Mhm.
level people, we do try to get to know them. We want to know who they are and we want them to know us. But really, again, back to the relationships is who has the closest relationship to the family it's these nurses, it's these social workers. And so whether they're with a huge place or a smaller place, you can still get to know them on the same level. The bigger places, it may be harder to maybe get in the door and maybe harder to get to someone or get to talking to someone. But as far as how you treat them or what you should expect for them to react to families and interact with families, I think it's the same. But yeah, we are seeing that it is making it more difficult to track the hospices, which is why I say you need to stay on top of it. That's, I think, the main thing that the
Hmm.
consolidation on the hospice side affects is you really have to stay on top of what hospices are in your area and serving your area. Our hospice liaison goes to places all the time. There's a sign on the door, "We've moved." So they're even just their office buildings are changing all the time.
Wow. Wow. Very cool. Such good information, man. We could probably spend 12 hours going deep on this. So maybe watch for a webinar or something coming up
Yeah,
that we could partner on or do if you're watching this. But ICCFA University is where you can get the playbook. Check that out. Pierce, man, thank you so much for hopping on, being on Funeral Nation. Are you a first time guest on Funeral Nation? Have we been on
first time
before?
guest on Funeral Nation, long
First
time
time.
viewer,
Let's
long
go.
time
Let's go.
listener,
Thank you.
first time guest.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I love it. Well, bro, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And if you want more information on this, are you open for people to reach out to you
Yeah,
that are curious about how to build this type of program? Cool.
yeah,
Good. We'll
absolutely. Can I give
put
my email? Can you put that in the comments or something?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead and say it, but we'll drop it in the comments as well. Or
yeah.
if there's
It's
a phone
just
number you'd rather them call.
okay, okay. Yeah, email's the best. Pierce, Pierce at leafcremation.com. I'd love to speak with
Dope.
anyone, and we can get you set up ICCFA University, or we can set up a Zoom call. I'm open to anything. Love to help.
Perfect. All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. We'll leave here. Until next time, have a great effing week.